John abandoned his pregnant wife on the farm, leaving her with only a broken wood stove. Years later, he knelt full of regret, seeing all that she had built. If you liked this story of overcoming, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us which city you're watching from. The sun was strong and dust rose from the dirt road like a reddish veil. Mary, with her big belly, 7 months, weighing on her torn blouse, held her husband, John's arm, trying to understand what was happening. He pulled his arm forcefully, his eyes filled with rage. "You're only good for eating, you useless woman. I'm tired of you and this belly that only gives me trouble." Before she could answer, he pointed to a crumbling mud hut on an empty lot next to what used to be their farm. "This is yours now. Deal with this broken wood stove, because I can't stand you anymore." He threw a bag with old clothes on the ground, got into the truck, and drove off, leaving only the noise of the engine and a void that cut through her chest. Mary fell to her knees in the dry earth, her hands trembling on her belly, where the baby kicked as if he knew her pain. The crooked wood stove with the cracked chimney seemed to mock her there, next to the little house. A few meters away, she saw the outline of their old farm, the place where they planted corn, raised chickens, and dreamed together. But now there was nothing. John had sold everything. The farm they built with so much effort was no longer theirs. He lied to her, saying they'd use the money to buy an apartment in the city to give a better life to their unborn son. But it was all a lie. He ran away with the money and with Lucy, her 20-year-old friend, with painted hair and an easy smile, whom Mary had welcomed into her home so many times. "How could he do this to me?" Her voice came out low, tearful. She remembered the conversations of the last few months, John talking about the city, the apartment, the plans. "We're going to get out of this countryside, Mary. Trust me." And she trusted, while he sold the farm behind her back, while he laughed with Lucy at the village bar. She was there, pregnant, taking care of the house, believing in him. Now all that was left was that empty lot, the little house with the leaky roof and the useless stove. Alone, pregnant, without a penny. She felt the ground disappear from under her feet. But Mary wasn't one to give up easily. She slowly got up, wiping her face with her dirty sleeve. "I'm not going to starve, I swear." The smell of wet earth and mold suffocated. The stove sat in the corner like a trophy of mockery. "You're only good for eating," he said, "so I'm going to show you, John, that I know how to do more than that." That night, she didn't sleep a wink. She sat on the floor with a candle she found in a drawer, the flame trembling along with her thoughts. Before marrying John, she used to make sweets to sell at the village fair, brigadeiro, corn cake, cocada. People liked them, asked for more, but now she had no oven, no good firewood, only that broken stove. "If I fix it, I'll do something, even if it's a sweet to sell to someone." She looked out the broken window. The old farm, now owned by a stranger, was right there taunting her, but Mary wasn't going to cry over the past. Her son needed her alive. The next day, the sun had barely risen and she was already up. Her belly was heavy, her back ached, but she grabbed a rusty hoe she found in the yard and started digging a hole to make a makeshift fire. "If the stove doesn't work, I'll find a way," she thought, gathering dry twigs, sweating a lot as the hot wind blew against her face. By late afternoon, the smell of roasted corn rose from the fire. It was just a wilted ear of corn that was in the bag, but for her, it was a victory. She sat on the ground eating slowly, savoring the simple taste that filled the emptiness. That's when she heard footsteps. A figure appeared on the road, a skinny woman in a straw hat carrying a basket. "Hi, miss. I'm Mrs. Zephyr. I live around the bend. I saw smoke and came to check it out." Mary felt awkward, but offered her corn. Mrs. Zephyr sat on a stump, took the ear of corn and asked, "Where's your husband? Are you here alone, pregnant like this?" Mary swallowed hard and spilled everything. John selling the farm, the apartment lie, his escape with Lucy, the land with the broken stove. Mrs. Zephyr listened quietly, chewing until she said, "I work in Mr. Ramiro's kitchen at the new farm nearby. If you want, I can get you a job, but you have to be strong, okay?" Mary felt a warmth in her chest, a light at the end of the tunnel. "I can do it, Mrs. Zephyr. Just give me a chance." The woman smiled, handed her the basket with tomatoes and some cassava and said, "Then come early tomorrow and bring a sweet if you know how to make one. The folks there love it." When Mrs. Zephyr left, Mary looked at the darkening sky and the broken stove. "You threw me away, John, but I'm going to rise up and my son will rise with me." Night fell, and she slept on the ground, dreaming of the smell of brigadeiro in the air. The rooster hadn't even crowed when Mary woke up, her body sore from sleeping on the hard ground. Her belly felt heavier than ever, and the baby kicked as if to say, "Get up, Mom, we have to fight." She rubbed her eyes, feeling the cold morning air of the countryside seep through the cracks in the little house. The broken stove sat quietly in the corner, but today she wasn't going to fight with it. Mrs. Zephyr had opened a door, and Mary was going to walk through it, even if she had to crawl. She picked up the basket her neighbor had left with some wilted tomatoes and cassava and rummaged through the bag John had thrown on the ground. She found a crumpled packet of brown sugar and half a bag of corn flour. "I can make a cake, yes," she thought. She had no eggs, no butter, but she would improvise. She lit a fire in the hole she'd dug yesterday, using the leftover twigs, and grated the cassava with a dull knife piece she found in the drawer. She mixed everything with water and sugar, stirring with her hands until it became a thick dough. The faint smell rose, but it was something. She wrapped the cake in an old cloth and left, her belly swaying with each step on the dirt road. Mr. Ramiro's farm was about 3 kilometers away, and the sun was already getting warm when she arrived. The place was large, with a corral full of cows, wooden sheds, and a strong smell of manure in the air. Mary stopped at the gate, unsure, until Mrs. Zephyr appeared, wiping her hands on a dirty apron. "You're here, girl. Come with me, but don't just stand there. The work is hard." Mary followed her to a dirt-floor kitchen with a real wood stove, sooty black pots, and a lot of people shouting orders. "Did you bring the sweet?" Mrs. Zephyr asked. Mary took the cake out of the cloth, a little embarrassed. "It's all I could make with what I had." The woman took it, smelled it, and cut a piece. She chewed slowly, frowning, until she broke into a crooked smile. "It's a little dry, but it tastes good. The folks will eat it. You stay with me today. Help me with the food for the farmhands. If you can handle it, I'll talk to Mr. Ramiro about giving you a place here." Mary nodded, her heart racing. It was her chance. The day was an inferno. She peeled potatoes, washed pots, carried firewood, all with her belly getting in the way, and sweat running down her face. The farmhands, big, noisy men, came in and out of the kitchen, asking for coffee, rice, beans. Mrs. Zephyr commanded everything, but Mary could barely keep up. By late afternoon, her back ached so much that she had to sit on a stool to avoid falling. That's when Mr. Ramiro appeared, a short man in a crumpled hat with a hoarse voice. "Who's that pregnant woman, Zephyr?" "That's Mary, boss. She's alone. Her husband left her on a plot nearby. She worked well today and even brought a cake." Mr. Ramiro looked at Mary, then at the cake, and took a piece. He chewed with a look that wasn't impressed. "It's bad, but it's edible. If you want to stay, you have to improve this. I can help, but it's your responsibility. If there's trouble, I'll kick you out." Mary swallowed her pride and thanked him quietly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. On the way home, the sky was already reddening, and she carried a small bag of beans and a piece of bacon that Mrs. Zephyr had given her as a gift. The tiredness weighed on her, but her head was full of ideas. "If I make a good sweet, they'll want more. But how with this useless stove?" That's when she heard a noise on the road. A cart stopped beside her, pulled by a thin horse. The man on the seat was Joe, a neighbor from the old farm, with a sparse beard and tired eyes. "What are you doing here alone, Mary? Where's John?" She hesitated, but shame no longer had a place. She told him everything: the sale of the farm, the apartment lie, his escape with Lucy, the land with the broken stove. Joe shook his head, scratching his chin. "That dog! I saw him with Lucy in the village last week, spending money like a king. The farm now belongs to Mr. Oliver, a rich man from the city." Mary felt her blood boil. John was living her life while she was struggling in the mud. Joe offered her a ride to the plot, and on the way said, "If you need firewood or tools, let me know. Your John owed me a favor. Now I'll collect it by helping you." When she arrived at the little house, Mary threw the beans and bacon into a corner and collapsed on the floor, exhausted. But the fire in her chest was lit. The next day, she returned to work at the farm, bringing another cake, this time with a piece of melted bacon for flavor. The farmhands ate it all, and one even asked for more. Mrs. Zephyr laughed. "See, girl, you've got a knack." Mary smiled for the first time in days. The baby stirred as if approving, but the peace didn't last long. At the end of the day, while cleaning the pots, she heard a car engine. A truck stopped at the farm entrance, and she froze. It was his. John got out laughing loudly, with Lucy hanging on his arm. "I came to get some things I forgot with Mr. Ramiro," he shouted, not even noticing Mary there. She hid behind the door, her heart pounding, watching him pass as if she had never existed. Lucy laughed in a new dress while Mary held her belly and a dirty spoon. That night, lying on the floor, she promised, "You will see me on my feet, John. My son and I will triumph, and you will swallow that laugh." The morning was cold, with a thin mist covering the countryside, but Mary woke up with her chest burning. The image of John laughing with Lucy in the truck wouldn't leave her mind. Each step on the dirt road to Mr. Ramiro's farm was a blow to the ground, as if she could crush the betrayal with her feet. The baby stirred in her belly, restless, and she whispered, "Calm down, my son. We'll turn this around." The small bag of beans and the bacon that Mrs. Zephyr had given her was stored. But today she wanted more. She wanted to show that that broken stove wouldn't define her life. She arrived at the farm kitchen with a sweaty face and firm hands. Mrs. Zephyr was already at the stove, stirring a pot of coffee that filled the air with a strong smell. "You look like you didn't sleep, girl," the woman said without taking her eyes off the fire. Mary took a deep breath and replied, "I slept little, but I came to work a lot." She grabbed a machete and began to cut onions for the farmhands, her eyes burning as much as her heart. As tears streamed down, she thought of John, spending their farm's money, laughing with Lucy, while she struggled to survive. In the middle of the morning, she decided to take a chance. She grabbed a handful of sugar left over from the coffee, a piece of cassava from the basket, and the rest of the bacon. "I'll make a cocada," she decided. She melted the bacon in a frying pan, mixed it with the sugar until it became a thick syrup, and added the grated cassava. The sweet smell rose, mixed with the salty fat, and the farmhands started asking what it was. "What's that, Mary?" asked Chico, a skinny man with a sparse mustache. She cut a piece and gave it to him. "Taste it!" He chewed, his eyes widened, and he shouted to the others, "Grab a piece! This is too good!" Mrs. Zephyr looked sideways, suspicious, but took one too. "You're learning, huh? If you get the consistency right, the men will buy it." Mary felt a warmth in her chest. It was small, but it was a sign. At the end of the day, the farmhands were asking for more cocada, and she promised, "Tomorrow I'll bring more." Mr. Ramiro passed by the kitchen, saw the movement and grumbled, "If you want to sell this, it's up to you, but don't disrupt the work." Mary nodded, holding back a smile. It was the first of many victories. On her way back to the plot, she stopped at Joe's house to ask for some twigs. He was mending a fence, his thin horse grazing nearby. "I brought you a piece of my sweet," she said, pulling out a cocada wrapped in cloth. Joe tasted it, scratched his beard, and said, "It's good, Mary. If you need firewood or a way to fix that stove, I'll help you. Your John owed me a favor. Now I'll collect it by helping you." She thanked him, feeling that she wasn't as alone as she thought. Arriving at the little house, she lit the makeshift fire in the yard and spent the night stirring another batch of cocada, using what was left from the farm kitchen. Her belly ached, tiredness weighed her down, but she didn't stop. "This is for you, my son," she whispered as the sweet thickened. She fell asleep with her hands smelling of sugar, dreaming of a day when John would regret his own laugh. The next day, she took the cocadas to the farm. The farmhands bought everything in half an hour, paying with dirty coins that she kept in a torn pocket. Mrs. Zephyr laughed. "You're becoming the queen of sweets, girl." But not everything was easy. While cleaning the kitchen stove, she heard a noise that chilled her blood. John's truck was back, parked near the shed. He got out with Lucy clinging to his arm, laughing loudly as if the world belonged to him. "I came to pick up some things I left with Mr. Ramiro," he shouted. Mary crouched behind a pile of firewood, her heart pounding watching them go into Mr. Ramiro's office. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but John came out with an envelope in his hand, throwing it up like a trophy. Lucy let out a little shriek, clinging to him, and Mary saw red. "He's selling something else that was ours," she thought, clenching her hands until her nails dug into her skin. When the truck disappeared down the road, she ran to Joe, who was unloading hay nearby. "Joe, do you know what John came here to do?" The man spat on the ground and replied, "I heard he sold some old farm machinery to Mr. Ramiro, stuff that belonged to both of you." Mary felt a punch to the stomach. The machines they bought with years of hard work that she helped pay for with her fair cakes were now filling his and Lucy's pockets. "He won't stop robbing me," she murmured, her eyes watering. Joe put his hand on her shoulder. "You have to be smarter than him, Mary. Make a name for yourself, and he'll eat his words." She nodded, wiping her face. Her anger was turning into strength. That afternoon, she asked Mrs. Zephyr for a corner in the kitchen after hours. "I want to make more sweets to sell in the village," she explained. The woman grumbled but allowed it. Mary spent hours stirring cocada, experimenting with a brigadeiro made with bacon fat, and even a simple corn cake. The smell filled the farm, and even Mr. Ramiro appeared, taking a piece without saying anything. When she finished, she had a pile of sweets to take the next day. The plan was simple: sell them at the village fair, save money, and fix that broken stove once and for all. Lying on the floor of the little house, with the coins in her pocket jingling, she looked at the leaky roof and promised, "You will see me shine, John, and my son will have what I never had." The sun had barely risen when Mary got up, her body protesting the sleepless night on the floor. Her 7.5-month belly was heavy, but the pocket with the cocada coins felt different, making her smile. Today was market day in the village, about 5 kilometers from her plot, and she wasn't going to miss the chance. She took the sweets she had made in the farm kitchen, cocadas wrapped in banana leaves, sliced corn cake, and some improvised brigadeiros with bacon fat. "It's not much, but it's mine," she thought, arranging everything in an old basket she'd found in the yard. The road was tough, the dirt path was full of holes, the wind kicked up dust that got in her eyes, and her belly made her stop every few meters to breathe. But Mary didn't give up. She hummed a little song her mother used to sing when she was small, something about planting and harvesting to fool the tiredness. The baby moved as if dancing along. "You'll like the market, my son. You'll see your mother fighting for us both." She arrived in the village with the sun already high, her body sweaty and her feet aching. The market was bustling, fruit stalls, clucking live chickens, people shouting prices. Mary found a little corner near a tree. She spread a cloth on the ground and set out her sweets. "Fresh cocada for $2. Fresh corn cake," she called out, her voice a little hoarse with nervousness. The first few people walked right past, not even looking. She felt a tightening in her chest, but didn't hang her head. That's when a woman in an apron carrying a bag of potatoes stopped. "How much is this cocada?" Mary answered quickly. $2, but it's good, you can try it." The woman took one, chewed, and broke into a smile. "It's tasty, you know. I'll take 2. That was the breakthrough. Gradually more people came. A boy on a bicycle bought a brigadeiro. An old woman with a scarf on her head bought the whole cake. In 2 hours, the basket was almost empty, and her pocket jingled with more coins. Mary counted every dollar in her head, imagining what she could do. Fix the stove, buy sugar, maybe even a mattress so she wouldn't have to sleep on the floor anymore. But the day wasn't just flowers. As she put away the cloth, she heard a familiar laugh that chilled her spine. It was Lucy, across the market, clinging to John's arm. He was wearing a new shirt, smelling of cheap perfume, and she had on a tight dress, laughing loudly as she bought a bag from a stall. Mary stood still, her heart pounding in her throat. They didn't see her, but she saw everything, the way he carelessly tossed the banknotes, the same money that belonged to their farm, to the life she helped build. Lucy bossily pointed at things, and John obeyed like a dog. "He's spending my sweat," Mary thought, clutching the basket so tightly that her nails dug into the wood. She wanted to run over there, scream, wipe that laugh off their faces, but the baby kicked hard, and she took a deep breath. "No, my son, we won't stoop to their level. They'll see me on my feet, not on my knees." She put away the coins, picked up the empty basket, and turned her back. The walk back was lighter, even with her aching legs. Each step was a promise. She would grow. She would show John that he had thrown away a treasure. That night, lying on the floor of the little house, Mary did the math. She had collected almost $30 at the market, plus the coins from the farmhands. "Enough to buy a bag of sugar and fix the stove," she murmured, looking at the leaky roof. The broken stove sat there in the corner like an old enemy. But now she had a plan. The next day, she asked Joe for a ride to the village again, this time to buy supplies. He showed up with his cart, the skinny horse wheezing as usual. "You're becoming a real sweet maker, Mary," he said, laughing as he loaded the bags. She smiled, but the tiredness was in her eyes. "It's the only way, Joe. If I stop, I lose the land." At the store, she spent almost everything she had. A bag of sugar, one of flour, and a piece of bacon fat for flavor. She only had $10 left in her pocket, but she returned to the plot with her head full of plans. She spent the entire night at the stove, making cocadas, brigadeiros, and a special corn cake with the leftover cinnamon. The smell filled the little house, and the fire crackled while she sang softly so as not to disturb the silence of the countryside. "Tomorrow I'll pay the first rent," she decided, carefully wrapping the sweets. She slept for a few hours, her body exhausted, but her heart light. It was the day to prove that she was worth more than John's scorn. On Saturday, she arrived at the village fair as the sun was rising. She spread the cloth on the ground, laid out her sweets, and called out, "Fresh cocada, special brigadeiro, only 3. This time, business was brisk. A woman in a hat bought 5 cocadas, a boy took a brigadeiro, and even the fruit stall owner bought a whole cake. In 3 hours, the basket was almost empty, and her pocket jingled with almost $60. Mary sat in the shade, counting the coins, a smile escaping unintentionally. "It worked, my son, we're going to stay." But the joy was short-lived. As she put away the cloth, she heard a familiar scream. It was Lucy, across the market, arguing with a vendor. "You gave me the wrong change, you thief!" John was behind her, frowning, trying to pull Lucy towards the truck. Mary stood still, her heart pounding. They were thinner, their clothes wrinkled, the sparkle they once had gone. They're running out of money, she thought, feeling a bitter taste in her mouth. John looked in her direction, and for a second their eyes met. He hesitated, as if to say something, but Lucy screamed again, and he turned his back. Mary didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "They're reaping what they sowed," she murmured, the basket empty. On her way back, she stopped at Mr. Oliver's house with Joe. She brought the $50 and the basket of sweets as agreed. The man opened the gate, tasted a cicada, and nodded. "You're on time, Mary. Keep it up and you'll stay." She thanked him, relief mixed with the burden of knowing that every month would be a race at the farm. Mrs. Zephyr noticed the sparkle in her eyes. "You paid the rent, huh? You're tough, Mary," she laughed. "I have to be, Zephyr. My son deserves a roof over his head." But the day brought another surprise. While cleaning the kitchen, Chico, the farmhand with the sparse mustache, came with news. "Mary, people in the village are talking about your sweets. A bakery owner asked if you sell to her. She wants to buy a lot every week." Mary's eyes widened. "Really? How much does she pay?" Chico scratched his head. "I don't know, but she'll be at the fair tomorrow. Go talk to her." That night, Mary barely slept. The idea of selling to the bakery was too big for her tired mind. "If I close this deal, I'll pay the rent easily," she thought, fiddling with the coin jar. But fear came with it. What if she couldn't handle it? Her belly was getting heavier. The baby could be born any time. Sitting at the door, looking at the lit stove, she took a deep breath. "We've come this far, my son. I won't stop now." On Sunday, she returned to the fair with Joe. She found the bakery owner, a plump woman in a floral apron named Mrs. Clara. "I heard your sweets are good, miss. I want 10 cocadas and 10 brigadeiros every week. I'll pay $5 per batch. Deal?" Mary quickly did the math. $50 a week, plus what she sold individually, was enough for the rent and to save a little. "Deal, Mrs. Clara. I'll start next week." The woman smiled. "Then it's a deal. And you're pregnant, huh? Good thing I'll help you carry." On her way back to the little house, Mary felt light, even with her belly heavy. The land was hers for another month, the sweets were working out, and John was declining. Lying on the floor with the smell of firewood in the air, she looked at the leaky roof and promised, "You will see me flying, John, and my son will have everything I dreamed of." The sky was heavy with dark clouds, and the smell of rain hung in the air of the countryside. Mary woke up with a sharp pain in her belly, different from the baby's kicks. She was almost 9 months pregnant, and her body warned her that time was short. She rubbed her eyes, feeling the exhaustion of the past few weeks from rushing between the farm, the market, and Mrs. Clara's bakery, making sweets until late. The repaired stove had become her partner, spitting out brigadeiros and cocadas that paid the rent and filled her coin jar. But today, something was different. "You're coming, aren't you, my son?" she whispered, placing a hand on her belly. She tried to get up to light the fire, but the pain came stronger, like a tightening that rose up her back. Mary fell back to the floor, breathing deeply. Calm down, she repeated, but her heart raced. There was no one around. Joe was in the village and Mrs. Zephyr at the farm. The mud hut seemed smaller, the walls closing in on her. She grabbed the coin jar and the basket of sweets she was supposed to take to Mrs. Clara, decided to ask for help. "I'm not going to give birth here alone," she thought, dragging her feet to the road. The sky poured down before she reached the farm. Rain fell in heavy drops, wetting the basket and sticking her blouse to her belly. Every step was an effort, the pain coming in waves. When she saw Mr. Ramiro's gate, she screamed, "Mrs. Zephyr, help me!" The woman ran out of the kitchen, her apron flying in the wind. "Mary, what are you doing in the rain, girl? You're giving birth." She nodded, her teeth clenched, and Mrs. Zephyr called to Chico, "Get Joe's cart quickly." The journey to the village was a blur. Mary lay in the cart, the rain beating on her face, Mrs. Zephyr holding her hand. "Hold on, Mary. The midwife is there." They arrived at Mrs. Clara's house, who opened the door, startled. "My God, bring her inside!" They carried Mary to a small room at the back of the bakery, where a thin woman, Mrs. Irene, was already waiting with a cloth bag. "Lie down, miss, let's bring this baby out." The next few hours were a single scream. Mary squeezed Mrs. Zephyr's hand, the pain tearing through her, while Mrs. Irene said, "Push, almost there." Sweat streamed down, the rain beat against the window, and she thought of John, the stolen farm, the sweets that saved her. "You won't take this from me, you dog," she murmured through clenched teeth, until with a final push she heard a cry, a thin, lively sound that cut the air. "It's a boy," cried Mrs. Irene, putting the baby in her arms. Mary looked at the red little face, closed eyes, and cried, "You're here, my Lucas." The name came without thinking, as if it already lived in her heart. Mrs. Zephyr laughed, wiping her face. "He's strong like his mother." "Mrs." Clara brought a dry cloth and a glass of water, her eyes watering. "You're a warrior, Mary. This boy will be proud of you." But life gave no respite. The next day, still weak, Mary stayed at the bakery with Lucas wrapped in a cloth. Mrs. Clara let her rest there, but warned, "The basket for Mr. Oliver is late. He won't like it." Mary felt a chill down her spine. The rent was due in a week, and she hadn't made the sweets because of the birth. "I'll manage, Mrs. Clara, lend me your stove today." The woman agreed. "Use it, but go easy. You just gave birth." With Lucas sleeping in a corner, Mary stirred Brigadero with one hand and held him with the other. Her body ached, her head spun, but she finished the basket for Mr. Oliver and another batch to sell. Mrs. Zephyr took the sweets to the farm, while Mary stayed at the bakery, breastfeeding Lucas and counting the remaining coins. Almost $50, she thought, but tiredness weighed her down like never before. At the end of the week, she returned to the plot with Joe. The little house was wet from the rain, the dirt floor turned to mud, but she entered with Lucas in her arms, proud. She lit the stove and made cocadas for the fair, even with her eyes drooping with sleep. On Saturday, she took the baby in a makeshift sling and sold everything in the village, collecting the $50 for the rent. She stopped at Mr. Oliver's house, handed over the money and the basket, and he grumbled, "It's late, but it's paid. Don't slip up again." On her way back, she stopped at the farm gate to rest. That's when she saw John's truck stopped in the bush with the hood open. He was there cursing the engine while Lucy yelled from the seat, "Fix it, you useless idiot!" Mary watched from a distance, Lucas sleeping on her chest. "They're broken," she thought, feeling a mix of pity and strength. John looked at her, covered in grease, and lowered his head. He said nothing, but the silence spoke volumes. That night, lying on the floor with Lucas beside her, Mary looked at the lit stove and the leaky roof. "We won another one, my son. He's falling and I'm rising." The smell of firewood filled the air, and she fell asleep with a tired smile, dreaming of a sweet factory that would one day be hers. The sun shone faintly, filtered by the mist of the countryside, when Mary woke up to Lucas's cries. The baby, now a week old, moved his little arms in the cloth beside her, asking to be fed. She slowly sat up, her body still sore from childbirth, and held him in her arms. "Good morning, my warrior," she whispered, breastfeeding him while looking at the repaired stove. The smell of burning wood still lingered in the little house, mixed with the mold of the dirt floor. She had paid the rent, but life gave no breaks. She needed to make more sweets for Mrs. Clara, for the farmhands, and for the fair. She got up with difficulty, put Lucas in a cloth sling tied to her chest, and lit the fire. She stirred a batch of cocadas with one hand, swaying the baby with her body so he wouldn't cry. The heat from the stove warmed her belly, and sweat dripped from her forehead. "We don't stop, do we, Lucas?" she said, laughing to herself. She finished the sweets, wrapped everything, and left for work at Mr. Ramiro's farm, her feet sinking into the dry mud of the road. She arrived in the kitchen with the sun already high, handing the basket to Mrs. Zephyr. The woman took the cocadas and laughed. "You're crazy, Mary, giving birth one day, making sweets the next. How do you manage?" She shrugged. "I have no choice, Zephyr. Lucas needs me." She spent the day peeling cassava and frying pastries for the farmhands, with the baby sleeping in a wooden box that Chico had found for him. The men were addicted to her sweets, and every day someone asked for more. "Make one of those brigadeiros, Mary," yelled Skinny Joe, throwing a $2 coin. She put the money away, smiling. Every penny was a brick for her new life. At lunchtime, Mrs. Clara appeared at the farm, her floral apron stained with flour. "Mary, I came to get the 10 cocadas and 10 brigadeiros for the week, and I brought a present for your boy." She pulled a small package from her bag, a pair of dark blue wool booties, handmade. Mary's eyes widened, her chest tight. Mrs. Clara didn't have to. The woman cut in. "Yes, you do. You saved me last week, giving birth at my house. These sweets are making my bakery boom." She paid the agreed $50 and took the sweets, leaving Mary with a warmth in her heart. But later, a bucket of cold water. While cleaning the kitchen, she heard Mr. Ramiro shouting in the shed, "This land is a disaster! Oliver wants more money for the lease!" Mary froze. If Mr. Oliver pressured Mr. Ramiro, it could affect her. Mrs. Zephyr confirmed her fear. "Oliver is raising everything, Mary. Your rent might go up too." She felt the ground tremble again. Lucas's weight in the sling more real than ever. "I barely manage with 50, Zephyr. If it goes up, I'll lose everything." On her way home, she stopped at Joe's cart, who was repairing a wheel. She told him the problem, and he scratched his beard. "Oliver is greedy, but he likes people who work. Make more sweets, Mary. Show him you're worth the land." She nodded, her head spinning. That night, with Lucas sleeping, she made an extra batch of brigadeiros and cocadas, thinking of a way to grow. "If I sell more, I'll pay whatever he wants," she decided, the fire crackling in the stove. On Saturday, she took Lucas to the village fair, the sling firm on her chest. This time she shouted louder, "Cocada for 2, special brigadeiro for 3. Business was good, but a new development changed everything. A man in a polo shirt, Mr. George, stopped in front of her. "I heard about your sweets at Clara's Bakery. I own a warehouse in the city. I want to buy 50 cocadas a week. I'll pay $40 a batch." Mary quickly did the math. With Mrs. Clara and the fair, she could make over $100 a week. "It's a deal, Mr. George," she replied, her heart pounding. On her way back, she stopped at Mr. Oliver's house with the rent and the basket of sweets. He opened the gate, tasting a cocada, and dropped the bomb. "Mary, the land will go up to $70 next month. Everything is more expensive." She swallowed hard, but kept her voice firm. "Mr. Oliver, I accept, but you will see that I pay on time and make more sweets than that." He gave a half smile. "You're stubborn, huh? All right, but don't be late again." That night, Mary sat at the door of her little house, Lucas in her lap, looking at the lit stove. $70 is tough, my son, but we're growing." The week's money was in the jar, and Mr. George's and Mrs. Clara's orders were her thread of hope. But fate loves to play tricks. The next day, while selling brigadeiros to the farmhands, she saw John's truck stopped on the road, broken down, abandoned. Chico came laughing. "Your ex is screwed, Mary." Lucy left him, took what was left of the money and ran off with a truck driver. Mary stood still, her heart divided. John was reaping what he sowed, but she felt no joy, only emptiness. "He robbed me of everything, but I'm on my feet," she thought, pressing Lucas against her chest. That night, she made more cocadas and dreamed big. A little stall of her own, maybe even a small factory. The broken stove that was once a mockery was now the heart of her struggle. The morning was clear, the sun burning the fields. and Mary woke up to Lucas whimpering beside her in the cloth. He was almost a month old now, his little eyes starting to follow her around. She smiled, nursing him, while the smell of cocada rose from the stove. Business was growing. Mrs. Clara's $50, Mr. George's $40, plus what she sold at the fair and to the farmhands. But the $70 rent weighed on her, and the coin jar never filled enough for her to breathe a sigh of relief. "We're almost there, my son," she whispered, stirring the sweet with one hand. The day at Mr. Ramiro's farm was busy. Mary fried pastries, delivered cocadas to the farmhands, and ran to the kitchen to help Mrs. Zephyr. Lucas stayed in a wooden box in the corner, swaying with the noise of the pots. In the late afternoon, while cleaning the stove, Chico brought some hot gossip. "Mary, people in the village are saying your John is begging for money in the square. Lucy took everything and he's destitute." She stopped, her hand trembling on the spoon. "Seriously, Chico?" He nodded, laughing. "He's as thin as a stray dog, says he wants to talk to you." Mary felt a chill in her stomach. John, the man who sold their farm, who abandoned her pregnant with a broken stove, now wanted her. "Let him rot," she replied, but her voice was weak. Mrs. Zephyr overheard and nudged her. "Go see what he wants, girl. Close this chapter." Mary hesitated, but the fire in her chest told her it was time to face the past. On Saturday, she took Lucas to the village fair, the sling firm on her chest, and sold everything in 2 hours. The money jingled in her pocket, $80 more than the rent. But the thought of John wouldn't leave her mind. After delivering the sweets to Mr. George, she took a walk around the square, and there he was, sitting on a bench, his shirt torn, his face dirty, holding a tin cup. His eyes met hers, and he stood up, swaying. "Mary, I know I messed up. Please help me." She stopped, Lucas sleeping on her chest, and looked at him. The man who laughed at her, who spent the farm's money with Lucy, was now a wreck. "Help me! You threw me in the mud, John. You sold everything we built, left me with nothing, and now you want what?" He lowered his head, his voice hoarse. "I lost everything. Lucy, the money, my life. I'm sorry, Mary. Give me a chance." Anger flared like fire, but she took a deep breath. A chance. "I was pregnant, alone with a broken stove you threw in my face. The one who gave me a chance was myself. These sweets you mocked lifted me up. Look at my son, John. He's alive because of me, not you." He fell to his knees, crying, but Mary didn't soften. "Get up and find your way. I've found mine." She turned her back, her heart pounding, and walked away with Lucas. On her way back to the plot, the weight of the encounter stayed with her, but also a new strength. "He won't bring me down anymore," she thought, lighting the stove to make more cocadas. That week she delivered Mrs. Clara's and Mr. George's orders, paid the rent to Mr. Oliver, and had money left over to buy an old mattress from Joe. For the first time, she slept with Lucas in a soft corner, leaving the dirt floor behind. Months passed quickly. Lucas grew, crawling around the little house while Mary's sweets became famous. Mrs. Clara ordered 20 more brigadeiros a week. Mr. George increased his order to 70 cocadas, and the village fair filled with people wanting the pregnant woman's sweet from the countryside, as they called her. One coin jar turned into 2, and she began to dream big. A permanent stall, maybe even a small factory. Mr. Oliver even stopped complaining, eating cocadas every week with a half smile. But fate loves to test. One Saturday, while selling at the fair, a man in a suit appeared. "I'm Mr. Charles, owner of a chain of markets in the city. I want your sweets in my stores. 100 cocadas and 100 brigadeiros a week. I'll pay $100 per batch." Mary almost fell over. $200 a week plus what she already earned was enough money to change her life. "Deal, Mr. Charles, I'll do it," she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. On her way back, she told Joe and Mrs. Zephyr, "I'll need help to keep up," she admitted. Joe laughed. "I'll carry firewood and deliver the sweets. I'm in." Mrs. Zephyr nudged her. "And I'll help you in the kitchen, but I want a free brigadeiro every day." Mary laughed loudly, her heart light. Her dream was taking shape. With the money saved, she bought a bigger plot in the village near the fair and hired some bricklayers to build a simple shed. Joe brought firewood, Mrs. Zephyr helped choose used stoves, and even Mr. Ramiro lent a cart to carry material. In 3 months, the small factory was up. A cement floor, 4 large stoves, a long table, and a sweet smell emanating from the windows. Mary hired 2 young women from the village, Anna and Rose, to stir pots while she created new recipes. Cassava cake, dulce de leche with cinnamon, coffee cocada. Opening day was a blast. The village was packed with people from the city coming to taste the sweets. Mr. Charles appeared with a sign reading "Mary's Sweet Factory" in black letters. Mrs. Clara brought a celebratory cake, and Lucas, now walking, cut the ribbon with tiny, chubby hands. Mary stood on a crate and spoke, her voice trembling. "I started with a broken stove and a pregnant belly. Today, I'm here because of you all and my son. Thank you." The crowd applauded, and she wiped a tear, feeling the weight of the journey she had traveled. Fate had one last surprise. A week later, while stirring brigadeiro in the shed, she saw a figure at the door. It was John, thin as a stick, his beard sparse, and his eyes sunken. He entered slowly, his crumpled hat in his hand. "Mary, I saw your name in the city. I'm proud of you." She stopped, her spoon dripping sweet, and looked at him. The man who humiliated her, who sold the farm and left her in the mud, was there, small, broken, proud. "You threw me away, John, said I was only good for eating. Look at me now." He fell to his knees, his hands trembling. "I messed up, Mary. I lost everything. Lucy, the money, my life. I'm sorry, Mary, forgive me." The young women stopped stirring the pots, silence hanging heavy in the air. Mary felt the old anger rise, but also a peace she didn't expect. "Get up, John. I don't forgive you to save you. I forgive you to free myself from you. Go and find your way. I've built mine." He cried, his face to the ground, and stumbled out, disappearing down the road. That night, Mary sat at the factory door with Lucas in her lap, the starry sky above them. The old stove she had brought from the little house as a remembrance sat quietly in a corner, full of history. "Did you see, my son? That stove he threw in my face became our empire." Lucas laughed, clapping his hands, and she looked at the lights of the village, the sweet smell in the air. The rent was paid, the factory was booming, and her name echoed beyond the countryside. The next day, Mr. Oliver appeared at the shed, tasting a new dulce de leche. "You surprised me, Mary. I want your sweets at my big farm in the city." She smiled. Her life, which began in the mud, now shone like melted sugar. John, wherever he was, would carry his regret forever, while she built a future for Lucas, a future no one could steal. Lying on the mattress with her son, Mary closed her eyes, her heart at peace. "We won, my love, and this is just the beginning."